Hello everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we're gonna be learning how to create a VPC and an EC2 instance. So in order to create EC2 instance, you will need to go first create a VPC. So how would you even do that? So you would go to your dashboard, which is you would have to log into AWS. I'm pretty sure you know how to do this already. And then you would click on VPC, and then you would click on VPCs, and this is where it's going to be created. As you can see, I already have one, or you might also have one. This is a default one. So yeah, click on create VPC. And then for this video, we're going to be doing much more, where we're going to change the tenancy, we're going to change the name, the tag, and the description of everything. So you would click on VPC and more, and as you can see, it's going to show you what it's going to create. So when you create this VPC, this is a preview. It's going to create 4 subnets, 2 private and 2 publics, and then for all 4 of them, you would need 3 route tables and then 2 NAT gateways for network internet connection. So you would pick a name for this for the video. We're just gonna do test, and then we're gonna pick the tenancy, which should always be dedicated, because unless no, it should also be default. My bad. It shouldn't be dedicated because it's gonna cost you more money. But if you need more graphics or more power, you would put it on dedicated, and then it would give you different settings. So we're gonna cover that in the next video. So for now, we'll just look at default. And then you're going to create 2 availability zones, which is one public and one is private. And then each availability zone, which is going to be public and private, they're going to have 2 different number of subnets. So there are going to be 2 public subnets, 2 private. You just got to leave it alone. But for the NAT gateway, you would put one per availability zones, because you would need one for public, one for private. And then NAT gateway basically gives you the access for internet and stuff. So you just leave the VPC alone, and then you would just create the VPC. So it shouldn't take too long. Usually it takes about probably like a minute to 30 seconds. So we'll just give it time, and I'll show you when it's done. And you can now see that it's completely done. Now we're just going to view our VPC. So the state's available. Yep. So now that we're done creating our VPC, we're going to be creating auto scaling groups. So this is, you can't find it here. You have to go to EC2 instance. So this is where now you start to create EC2 instances, or try to set up stuff before you create the EC2 instance. So before this, you just look up EC2 instance and then click on it, and then click on launch instance. So that should be, I'm going to repeat it again. Unless if you don't see launch instance like I do, like the orange box, you would go to the side and you would click on instances, and then you would click on launch instance, either the blue one, either this one, or either the orange one. So this we're going to be doing this later, not right now. Before that, you would scroll all the way down, and then you would click on auto scaling groups, and then you would click on the orange one, and then this is where you're going to name. I'm going to name mine the same thing, so it's easier for me to do. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just doing test YouTube. And then for the launch template, as you can see, I don't have anything. So you would have to create uh, these type of templates. So it's going to open up a new tab, and then this is where you create the template. I would advise you to name the same thing as everything else, because it would be easier for you to delete later. So this is if this is for if you want to learn how everything works. But if you're using for this for a business or anything, I would try to put more money into this. Or if you want to just look at it for free and then decide if you want to put money, this is also a very cheap option. So after you're done putting in the name, you would put the description. For this one, we'll just say YouTube video, right? And then you would just scroll down. After that, you would pick recently launched, and then it should just automatically select whatever you want. If you can't see anything, I would pick whatever. You could go to recent and you can actually search it up. You could search up anything you want. So it should give you Ubuntu images, all this kind of stuff, and then it should be from a verified provider. After that, you would for the instance type, if you want to try the free one, this is the free one, which is T2 micro. As you can see, it says free tier. If you want to do like a much more demanding stuff with like two VPCs, 4 gigs of memory, maybe I don't know, 8 gigs, 16, this is where it's going to cost you a lot of money, right? And then so for the sake of the video, we're just going to click on T2 micro, which is the free one. And then you would click the for the key pair, you would pick Spring Boot application. This should already be in the thing. If you don't see it, I'm gonna do another video explaining how to do it. So for now, if you're from that video, then uh, as you can see, the key pair name is gonna be Spring Boot application. Next, for the network settings, you wouldn't have to do anything. I wouldn't say to pick anything, but for this one, you would have to create a security group because this is where you're going to be selecting the VPC that you made, and then you're going to be giving it a name. So for the security group, I'm obviously going to put the same thing. And the description, it's going to be YouTube video. Oh, my bad. YouTube video. And then the VPC, this is where you select the VPC we just created right now. So let me just check everything if I did everything right. Yes. Okay. And then this is where you would put, this is where you allow traffic to get in and get out. This is where I would say inbound, this is like kind of the firewall stuff you would have to take care of. So the custom one, it's going to be 8,000. Just do what I'm doing, and then the source type is going to be anywhere. Then you add another security thing where it's going to be all traffic anywhere, and then a third one where it's only SSH, which is 22 and anywhere, and then the last one is going to be custom TCP, which is going to be 80, and then anywhere. All these kind of stuff is going to make it easier in the future when you're creating route tables, NAT gateways, and all those kind of stuff. So I'm just going to I would advise you to put everything in this section. And then everything else, you would just leave it alone. And that should be it. And then you can just create launch instance template. So it's successfully created. We're just going to click on it just to check it's running. There we go. It is successfully created. We'll go back to the auto scaling group, select our template. Let me just refresh. Select the template. And then this is where it should show up all the information from. So leave the default one to default, and then click on next. And then this is where you would you would pick the VPC we just created at the network, and then you would pick two private, two private subnets. So this should say private 2 and then private 1. So this is where you choose the launch options. You have to pick the VPC you created, and then you would pick the availability zones. Since, if you remember, we picked two availability zones, one for public, one for private, and each of them had two of them. So for this one, we're only picking the private one because this is where everything's going to be happening. And then you would just leave the balance best effort alone. Click on next. And then no load balancer, no latest service. Everything's going to be the same. Click on next. For this one, the minimum desired capacity will be 1. No, this one will be 2. And then the maximum would be 4. This is where it's going to create, if you accidentally delete one of the NAT gateways or any of the stuff, or the VPC EC2 instances, it's going to automatically boot it back up. So yeah, if this is, or if you do it on accident, this is like a safety measure thing. So if you delete anything, it's just going to put it back up. And then if there's a heavy load, the amount it's going to go up to 4. If it's going to go to up to 4, which is what we put at maximum desired capacity. And then everything else is going to be the same. And then click on next. You would just skip this one, and then and then at the end you can just like launch the group. So this would take about probably like a minute to 2 minutes. I'll just cut to when it's ready. So as you can see, it doesn't say pending anymore. The status is blind. So now this basically means that we're done with creating an auto-scaling group. After this, we're going to be creating the EC2 instance. So go back to EC2. Well, let me just show you. If you click on the one next to the auto-scaling group, or if you just scroll back up and click on instances, it should take you back to the thing. And then look, as you can see right now, these are the two things that the two instances we created back when we made the auto-scaling group. So we're going to launch a new instance. This is where we're going to be able to access the terminal. So for this, I would just name it a Bastion file. You can learn about, I'm going to teach about this one later in the next coming videos, but for safety, it's easier, or you can just name it whatever, test YouTube or whatever you want. I would pick Ubuntu, and then I would pick the free one if you want. There's two different free ones, and then if you want, this is the latest one, and this is the old version. And then if you want anything else, these are all the paid options. So for this video, I'm just going to pick the free one. It's going to be 64-bit T2 micro, which is going to be this. It should be the same as the one used for the auto scaling groups. The key pair, you would just pick Spring Boot, and then this is where you would change the. As you can see, the network it says VPC default. So this is where you have to click Edit, and then you would pick the new VPC we created, and then make sure this is at a public subnet. Pick any of the public ones. It shouldn't be private. If it's private, it's not going to work. So I would pick the public one. For this video, I'm going to pick public one, and then I would enable auto assign public IP. So because if you keep it on disabled, you can't access the internet. So in order for you to access the online software, or the Ubuntu or the application, you would need to put it on enable. And then you would select from the existing security groups we created back then. That would be test YouTube. And then everything else should be the same. You shouldn't be able to change anything. Shouldn't need to change anything. And then that would just launch the instance. And then once you click on it, as you can see, the instance is ready. So it's going to take a while. And then it says pending. So it's going to take a while for it to be running. And then you can connect to it. I'll be back when it's done. The running state is instance state is running, and the status check is 2 out of 2. So that means it should be done loading up, and then we're just going to connect to it, and then we're going to be connecting to a public IP, IPv4, and then click on connect. It should take about probably 30-ish seconds, and it should show you all the stuff. There we go. Yep. And then when you do ls, there's nothing in it. This is a fresh new reboot. So in order for us to put the application or the .pem file, you would have to download it. So I have it downloaded right here, and you would need to download it using one of these commands. So the first one right here, this command, it's for Windows users, and the bottom one, which is this one, is for Mac users. Oops. And the bottom one is for Mac users. So I'm a Mac user, so I'm gonna go with the scp.i file. So I'll just delete everything, right? And then downloads .xx file. So I'm just gonna open up my terminal. What I have, as you can see, I have different workspaces. So we're gonna go to desktop, and that desktop is gonna have the .pem file. So if you do pwd, it's gonna show you where you are. There we go. That's where we are right now. And yeah, and then I should have it. There we go. I have it here, which is Spring Boot application. Click on it, and then I would just copy the name and then change it right here. Okay, there we go. I got the .pem file name uploaded. And this is not in my downloads, it's in my desktop. So we're just gonna desktop, and then just gonna copy it again and paste it. There we go. And then Ubuntu, and then you would pick the IP address. So for our thing, our IP address was this one. I believe it was this one, IPv4 public. There we go. Copy that IP and paste it without the parentheses. Okay, there we go. And this should move it. Okay, let me just clear this. I figured it out what I did wrong. Okay, so let me just clear this as well. Okay, so firstly, you would need to go to the directory, and then you would need to copy this command, chmod spring boot application or whatever the pen file is. Click on that. It should change the thing. It should just give you this, and after that, you should do this command. I'll put this in the description. I'll put this in. So this is for Mac OS. So this is where my thing was. It was at the desktop, and this is the m.dot file. This is my private public IP, and then after this, it should be the same because it's. And if you wanted it somewhere else, you could do it later. But for now, we just want it in our home, and it's going to be in an Ubuntu command. After you do this, it should give you. I should ask you for permission. If you just click on yes, mine didn't work for the first time, so I did it again. It didn't ask me anything. If you click on yes, it should show you all of this stuff, which is 100% downloaded. And then when you go back to the thing, and you click ls, you should be able to see the application running. I had to reset everything. Okay, now that we have the command, we're just going to be copying this thing. So we're going to be changing this to obviously our Spring Boot application or whatever the pem file is. So just delete pem file, and then we're going to go back to our EC2 instances. So if you go to EC2 and then click on instances, it should show you all of these, and then you have to pick one. You can pick this one or this one without the names, because these are going to be the ones without. These are going to be our private IP addresses. So I'm just going to pick this one and then copy it, and then we'll go back to our thing and then put in our private IP. So when you do this, it should change the IP address on this one. Hmm. Should have worked. I don't know why. Spring application 90. Okay, how about we try a different IP? It's also a private IP. Just do that. Okay. Basically, the issue was that it wasn't supposed to be SCP, which is a copy command. It was supposed to be SSH. I don't know why this isn't working again. Let me just restart it. Okay. Okay. So there we go. Look, if you see the private IP is right here. Okay. Do ls. So the command was to do this thing. It's you would do SSH minus I Spring Boot application or whatever the PEM file is, Ubuntu, and then one of your IP addresses. So for mine it was 10.0.1.3729. It was this one, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I copied this one, pasted it, and then should change the IP address. There we go. It's going to ask you yes or no, and then you just got to do that. And if you look at it, it changed our IP address. Now, after this, we're going to be putting in a file, which is HTML file. We'll be creating it, and then for that, you would need Python first. So we would have to install Python and then do everything else from there. So first, in order to download Python, you would do sudo apt update, I believe. So the command was not found. So you would do sudo apt update, I believe was this one. Okay, there we go. And then we should be able to download Python 3 or look up Python 3. Just shouldn't take too long. Yep, okay, there we go. And then we'll do Python 3. Yeah, there we go. It should give you a Python 3. There we go. That's the version number. After that, we would do vi. This is just an HTML file. Index, that's the name, .html. And that, oof, okay, hold on. Let's see. So if you do ls, you shouldn't be able to see anything. Now we know that we downloaded Python 3 by clicking on Python. We see that it's downloaded. So now we create a new file. It will be vim. Oh, we just have to go outside the thing. That was the problem. Control D. If you do Control D, it should be out, and then you see it's back to Ubuntu private IP. And now we have to create. We would use a vim index, whatever the name, HTML, and it should open up the file. And then I I should have it somewhere. I'm gonna copy code from somewhere, so like the HTML code. Give me a. I have my code right here, uh, and then paste it. And in order to save this, okay, this is the code. This is the HTML. You can put anything, any HTML code if you want. And then to save this, you would do escape, shift, colon, and then WQ, and then exclamation point, and then click enter. It should save. And then if you want to see how, if it's saved, you could do ls, and then cat, and then the name of the file, that HTML, and then you should be able to see it. There we go. That's the code. Yeah, that's how you put in a file inside of. Right, and we're just going to close the EC2 instance. And now, now we're going to be learning how to create a load balancer. In order to create a load balancer, you would first need to create uh, a target group. And then to create a target group, you would go back to EC2, scroll all the way down, and then I would just, okay, hold on, let me just, okay, there we go. My bad, I'm sorry. And if you can just see that, you should be able to see target groups. In order for us to do a target group, I forgot about this thing, you would need to put in Python 3, and then you need to run this command. So it should be running, and then this is how you health check everything. I'm going to be explaining this later on. So to create the target group, as I showed you earlier, go to target groups, create a target group, and then the instance is going to be instances. The name, I'm just going to do test YouTube. It doesn't allow hyphens. Test YouTube. The port is going to be the same port. We used 8000 here, so it's going to be 8000. IPv4. The VPC, you need to select the YouTube VPC or the whatever the VPC we created earlier, and then that should be it. Click next, and then here you select the two private. I believe these are the private subnets. I don't know. These are the two subnets that we created aside from the test YouTube one, and then you will click on include as pending below. This is how you link everything together. And then you click on create target groups. And then this is, as you can see now, we have a healthy and unhealthy section. And then when it's running, it's going to show you which one's healthy, which one's unhealthy. It should only show you one unhealthy, healthy one because we're only using one IP address. So I'm going to show you later. It's time to create our load balancer. Let's just go back to the homepage, EC2. And then if you scroll down, you should see load balancer. Create load balancer. And then for the sake of the video, we're just going to create the first one, which is this one, create. In order to create a load balancer, you would first need to put your name, just like I did, test YouTube. Then you would click internet facing. Then you would pick IPv4, which because it's the same as the thing we created earlier, or the VPC. It's the same. It should be the same as the VPC we created. And then select our VPC. There should be default and the VPC we created or you created. And then you would pick these two checkboxes. You check on these two boxes, and then it should say public. When you click on it, you can change it to public. So change it to public. You don't want private because you can't access it later. Then for the security groups, pick the one you created, uncheck the default one, and then for the port, it's going to be 80, and then the sub, I believe it's called route table. Nope, yeah, the routing one we created. Let me just check. The target group we created earlier, you would need to select that as the test default one. And yeah, that's it. That's how you create a load balancer, and then it should be done. Yes? Okay. Go back to load balancer, and then it should say active. The state should be active. And then click on target groups. click on the target group we created, and then if you just scroll down, it should say one healthy, one unhealthy. So this happens because when we go back to the thing, the code. Okay, this happens because we're running only one of the private IPs. We're not using the second one. So hence, one of them is going to be healthy because we're using it and it's running. The other one's down because we're not using it. So yeah, that's how you create an EC2 VPC instance with load balancer and target groups and auto scaling groups. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.